Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse hit cinemas worldwide this week, and the web-swinging, reality-hopping adventure has already won the hearts of critics and early audiences. Some are touting it as the best Spider-Man feature film ever made, while others are calling it the best comic book movie of the year. And in a year that gave us both Black Panther and Infinity War, that ain't nothing to sneeze at. Into the Spider-Verse is of course a loose adaptation of the Marvel Comics storyline from which it takes its name. In 2014's Spider-Verse event, writer Dan Slott brought together a colourful cast of alternate Spider-People from across the multiverse to fend off the advances of emo vampire Morlun and his family of Castlevania cosplayers. Fun fact, Dan Slott developed this idea from his previous writing on 2010's Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions game, which featured a similar plot of reality-bending proportions, and helped to popularise alternative versions of the character such as Spider-Man Noir and Spider-Man 2099. But long before the movies, the comics, or the video games, it was a certain 90s animated series that first introduced the idea of a multiverse of Spider-Men. And while Dan Slott was still writing Earthworm Jim comics, yes, that's a thing that happened and I love it, Spider-Man the animated series was weaving a tale that would bring together a cast of webheads from every corner of reality, even ours. Hey everyone, Josh here from Panels to Pixels, and this is the story of the original Spider-Verse. It's hard to overstate the legacy of 1994's Spider-Man animated series, and its influence is still felt in Spidey media today. While not the first animated outing of the character, the show was instrumental in taking Spider-Man from the pages of the comic books and turning him into a global box office megastar. By staying true to the character of Peter Parker as first established by Stan Lee and Steve Ditko in the 1960s, and grounding his stories in a real-life New York setting, this Spider-Man cartoon laid the groundwork for what we would see in the Raimi films and more recently the MCU. Don't believe me? Well, you know that Otto-Peter mentor-student dynamic that was utilised to great effect in Spider-Man 2 and the Spider-Man PS4 game? Well, that originated in the 90s TV series. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. The show was so successful in streamlining the origins of characters such as Venom and Morbius the Living Vampire that they have now been adopted as canon in the comics and movies. But Spider-Man the Animated Series didn't just build on what came before, it also innovated by telling wholly original stories, as was the case with Spider-Wars. In the show's final season, the web-slinger goes from friendly neighbourhood Spider-Man to a galaxy-hopping action hero. Coming off the back of a successful adaptation of the classic Secret Wars storyline, and as the show neared its climactic conclusion, the stakes were higher than ever. As the show's head producer and story editor John Semper Jr. explains.
I had come up with this idea that in the end, Spidey was going to save all of reality. You can't get any more heroic than that, can you?
And so, in a two-part storyline that would end the series and serve as a fitting farewell to this version of the character, Spider-Wars was born. After the events of Secret Wars, Spidey is transported by the Beyonder to an alternate New York, which has fallen to ruin and desolation. Things go from bad to worse when it is revealed that the Green Goblin and the Hobgoblin have teamed up and are working under the control of this reality's own Peter Parker, who has bonded with the Carnage symbiote. The Beyonder and Madam Web inform Peter that he must lead a team of different reality Spider-Men in order to stop Spider-Carnage from opening up an interdimensional hole and causing an explosion that would destroy all of reality. Are you with me so far?
This is starting to sound like a bad comic book plot. It gets worse.
The different Spideys we get are super cool, and while there is no Spider-Man Noir or Spider-Ham, you can see how this roster has influenced the Spider-Verse comics and the eventual movie. We get the clone of Peter Parker, Ben Reilly, aka the Scarlet Spider, a Spider-Man equipped with the arms of Dr. Octopus, a six-armed Spidey which is itself a neat throwback to a previous storyline from the series, the always awesome armoured Spider-Man, and finally a mysterious powerless Spidey who will surely play an important role as the story progresses. Christopher Daniel Barnes does an incredible job voicing all of the many Spider clones and helps to inject distinct personalities into each one by subtly changing his delivery. Mark Hamill reprises his role as the Hobgoblin, and along with the Green Goblin, Kingpin and Alistair Smythe, we get a wonderful send-off for the show's most enduring bad guys. But as Spidey discovers, the real villain here is himself. In the second part of this 2-episode blockbuster, we are transported to the home of the armoured Spider-Man, where the webhead is treated not as a menace, but as a global superstar. In this universe, unburdened by the traditional Parker look, Spidey has become a Tony Stark type figure, with a successful multi-million-dollar company and celebrity status. In a nod to the Japanese Spider-Man TV series of the 1970s, we even get an appearance of the Spider Robot.
Look at
Here, as Spidey faces off against Spider Carnage, he deduces that the reason the armoured Spider-Man is so self-assured and successful is because in this reality, Uncle Ben is still alive. Peter persuades Ben to confront Spider Carnage in a touching scene that once again reminds us of the true meaning behind those immortal words.
Do you remember what I taught you about great power?
Yes. With great power, there must come great responsibility.
With the day saved, Spidey returns to the others, but Madame Web has one last trick up her sleeve, and this is where the powerless Webhead comes in. In a remarkable twist, and one of my favourite moments in all of television, it is revealed that this Spider-Man is actually the actor who plays the character in the very show we are watching, and brings Peter Parker into the real world to meet his co-creator Stan Lee. I love this so much. Miss you, Stan.
That Stan Lee, he's quite a guy.
I think he's truly special.
Well, Madam Web, where to now?
Face front, true believer. We are going to find the real Mary Jane Watson.
What?
It has been a long, hard journey, and I think you are finally entitled to some happiness.
Amen to that, dear lady. Amen to that.
In a way, the Spider-Wars storyline acts as a response to the much maligned Clone Saga from the comics, with even the subtitle of the first episode, I Really Really Hate Clones, poking fun at the storyline that fans love to hate. But the real inspiration behind bringing together this cast of Spider Dudes may have had much more to do with merchandise. Over the course of the series, the success of the show had translated into sales of Spider-Man action figures. Toy Biz, the toy company behind all Marvel toys in the 90s and noughties, were pumping out so many variants of the classic Spider-Man suit in order to flog as many figures as possible. In an attempt to legitimize some of these, frankly, bizarre toy designs, John Semper Jr. decided to incorporate these different versions of Spidey into the final arc of the show. And so, in the tradition of Saturday morning cartoons serving as thinly veiled toy commercials, Spider-Wars was born. Which in turn just meant more toys being produced. Yay, consumerism!
It's the new Spider-Wars collection with Cyborg Spider-Man and the coolest weapons around. Spidey transforms into a missile-shooting machine. There's Doctor Strange.
It's clear to see the influence of this storyline from the 90s show on the Spider-Verse comics that we would eventually get. And it's no secret that ex-Amazing Spider-Man writer Dan Slott took a lot of cues from this version of the character. Even down to the use of Madame Web in orchestrating this multi-dimensional adventure, as is the case in Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions. This all came full circle once again when the voice of Spidey in the 90s animated series, Christopher Daniel Barnes, was enlisted to play Spider-Man Noir in Shattered Dimensions. Phew, my head is really spinning now. It's hard to believe that Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is the Webhead's first ever animated feature film. I just saw it today as I'm recording this and I was totally blown away. It's a truly joyous movie that celebrates one of pop culture's most enduring icons, and unlike other comic book movies which seek to present themselves as the quintessential retellings of these stories, Into the Spider-Verse is not afraid to display 55 years of the character's history on its sleeve. The 90s Spider-Man animated series is as much a part of Into the Spider-Verse's DNA as the comics, the movies, and everything else that came before. And by first introducing the concept of alternate reality Spideys teaming up, it is arguably as essential to the film's narrative as the Ultimate series of comics that first spawned Miles Morales, or even Amazing Fantasy 15. Not bad for a cartoon designed to sell toys. I want to give a special thanks to one of my favourite YouTubers, Matt Draper, for lending his voice to the quote by John Semper Jr. Go check out his channel, he makes great video essays on comics and films that are always really well written, beautifully edited, and super entertaining. If you want to see more stuff like this, you can check out my previous video on the Marvel animated universe of the 1990s, or you can subscribe to Panels to Pixels so you never miss out on new uploads. Also, why not consider supporting the channel on Patreon at patreon.com/panelstopixels, where you can get cool rewards like exclusive videos and access to our members only Discord server. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye!